Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here and could join us for our Public Service Recognition Week, honoring the heart of government. We've got stories of service, a wonderful, hopefully, experience for everyone. And we've got three wonderful presenters. I'll let them introduce themselves: Samantha Seaman, Heather Robertson, and Karla Drenner. So I will put myself on mute and let you three take over.
Thank you, Saeed. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here as we kick off Public Service Recognition Week, a time to celebrate the often unseen, always essential work of public service servants across our communities. Whether at the state, local, or federal level, those who serve in public roles help hold together the fabric of our society, often with little recognition and great responsibility. I'm Dr. Karla Drenner, and I'm honored to guide us through tonight's program and share a bit of my journey with you shortly. Here's a quick overview of what to expect tonight. We'll begin with a brief look at the three levels of government: local, state, and federal, and the unique ways each contributes to public service. Then you'll hear from three speakers, each representing a different level of government, who will share their personal journeys in service. Dr. Heather Robertson will speak from the local perspective. I'll share from the state level, and Dr. Samantha Seaman will close that segment with her federal level experience. And we'll wrap up with a call to service, followed by a few minutes for questions and conversation.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Samantha Seaman, and I just kind of want to start this off by talking about what is Public Service Recognition Week. Public Service Recognition Week started back in 1985. It's always in the first week of May. So we're in the 40th year of recognizing public servants, although as a career, public service goes back much, much further, as we all know. When we talk about recognizing public service, we are literally talking about a number of different careers, people, service, everything from the city garbage truck driver to the librarian to the lady who sits at the front counter when you come to pay your tax bills. We're talking about people who work in the state offices. We're talking about social workers for state CPS programs. We're talking about state legislators, Karla, right? We're talking about federal level employees, everything from the admin clerk up through the executives, congressional staff. It covers such a wide array of different careers, and a lot of those smaller careers tend to go unnoticed. So this is our opportunity to recognize amongst ourselves, amongst our students, people that we know, even if we don't know them, just saying thank you to the public servants who keep this country running every day. One of the things that a lot of people don't necessarily know is how many people work in public service. So on the state and local level, it's about 20 million civil servants. On a federal level, they kind of break it up a little bit. And the numbers for federal civil servants alone is about anywhere between 2 and 3 million. It depends. And obviously we are all aware of what's happening right now with the changes that are happening on federal government employees, so that those numbers are changing. But that also includes our military personnel, both civilians and active duties staff and soldiers and all of those people. Again, they tend to be behind the scenes. They're helping keep things moving. And it's important that we celebrate all of these people every year. This is, Public Service Recognition Week. It's an opportunity for us to educate people about the really vast and essential work that public servants do. And why the big thing is why they have chosen public service careers. And I know Karla, Heather, and I are all going to share um, our thoughts about this and kind of like give you a little bit of our background. But again, for all of those who are here, for all of those who are, whether it's you who's a public servant, you're here to celebrate your students, your staff, your family, people who, you know, we appreciate you being here. And let's celebrate all of our public servants. So if you could go on to the next slide. All right. So, you know, as I mentioned, talking about how all of these different levels of public service work, starting with that local level. The local level, as it notes in the slide here, this is like the direct impact. This is where we tend to have a lot more direct interaction with the community. People who work at the local level are having like the firsthand experience, whether it's working in schools, working in the education system, helping bring our young people up through the education system, getting them graduated onto university, community colleges, and those sorts. The people who work in waste collection, the people who work in the water systems, the people who work in our emergency services, all of our first responders, those local level employees have a very, very immediate touch with their constituents, with the public on a daily basis. When you get up into the state level, again, we're talking about there can be some direct impact, but it's more often going to be kind of like that, more of like an umbrella connection, where we're looking at things like policy development, the infrastructure that goes behind those water services, looking for public health versus the local versus the county health departments. They're looking at the higher level and providing for a much broader base of people. And then as we take it up into the federal level, things get a lot different. There are certainly agencies on a federal level that do have a regular interaction with citizens. But again, this is on such a large basis that it's very difficult for an immediate connection to people. It's kind of like trying to push through a lot of applications and tax returns. So, you know, while on a federal level, you can actually have a connection with helping people through the tax system, particularly through Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, because you do have that direct interaction. But then you've also got the justice systems, you've got national security, you've got national defense, where it just kind of like gets bigger and bigger and bigger. On the federal level, again, we're also talking about that intergovernmental. So the connections working through all of the different levels, whether it's federal directly to local, federal to state, and so forth like there. So public service literally touches everything in this country with, you know, every single day, whether it's, you know, you going in to pay your, like I said, your water bill, or trying to get a hold of, trying to, you know, call somebody with Social Security. And I know some of these things are people like, that doesn't happen. It does, you know, it does. People answer the phone, and we have to have that connection with employees. But whether you work, you know, whether somebody wants to work on local, state, or federal, that interaction, that you know, we have this term public service motivation. And so there's always that underlying motivation of why people want to be in public service. And so Karla and Heather and I are going to share a little bit. And I think Heather is going to start us off with that. So Heather has background in local level. And so she's going to share her why she does this. She's going to share her experiences.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys can see me on the screen, so we don't have very flashy, you know, PowerPoint slides here. I don't have a lot of beautiful pictures. It'll just be us kind of talking through our experiences. But I can tell you, when Samantha was talking about the different spheres and levels of government there, it's interesting how in sort of a layman's position, people don't see those different spheres. They just want something fixed. They just want a problem solved. So it's really interesting to to me, and that's how I kind of got started into my whole journey into public service, is that I like kind of being able to determine, okay, who handles this, who makes this decision, where does this money go, how is this decision made, and I like being able to teach people about that. At the local level, I'm just going to kind of go into some of my background here. I did not expect to get involved at the local level at all. My background originally out of my undergraduate work in political science was with GE Capital, particularly with insurance services, and working as a compliance and licensing person, basically handling, kind of a network within all 50 states, trying to figure out, licensing not only for individual agents, but also for our different companies. Just making sense of all of that, bureaucratic soup, essentially. And so I was kind of seen, and my team was seen as, kind of the soothsayers, the people who could make sense of all of that. They all the people that I worked with, all they wanted to do was sell and make money. And they wanted our team to tell them, how do I do it legally without getting in trouble? So, so we would do all of that. So while I was doing that, I was working towards my master's in political science. And when I say I had no real, kind of vision of myself getting involved in decision making and serving at the local level, I really didn't. I was working on a degree in international relations and comparative politics. Um, Not a lot of relation to state and local government there. Ended up finishing that up and took the leap into academia, because that was probably the my most favorite part of my job, even when I was working with GE Capital, was teaching people about all of this and how it all worked and how everything fit together. So make that jump into kind of my first foray into public service at the state college level. And at that point, I'm also kind of at a point in my life where I am at that point moved into a new community that was beginning to grow, was, kind of trying to find its way and grow responsibly. And so being the I guess true to the person that I am, because this is something that someone told me as an undergraduate. They said, "You aren't afraid to speak up." And I thought, okay. And I had somebody else tell me, "You're outspoken." And I thought, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And then they put me on a committee and I was like, oh, okay. So same thing kind of happened, is that I got interested in, the planning of in the growth of the community that I was in, and started showing up and making my voice a part of it. And so immediately that was when people in decision making positions were able to say, we need someone with input, we need someone with insight. And I was a little hesitant at first, because local politics is very local. I mean, it is, you don't want to step on too many toes, because you got to live there. I mean, it's got not that state politics isn't the same, Karla, but definitely with the constituents that you represent. But it's definitely something where you are making decisions about things that affect people's lives every single day, and they see that money. A lot of it is that fiscal responsibility and that transparency. So whenever I served, and I was appointed to a couple of different boards and a special task district that was appointed originally and then elected later, because it was just so new. That is what I saw firsthand, was basically people, looking at their tax bill and saying, okay, where does this money go? Oh, do I see it on my street? Do I see it in my garbage pickup? Do I see it in my, water quality? All of that kind of stuff. And that's something, and I think, Karla, you can probably back this up as well. You don't get to turn off that service anywhere you are. When they see you and they know you and they connect with you. You can be walking your dog and they're like, I want to talk to you about this, I want to talk to you about that. and it's great. It's really wonderful, and that was something that was empowering for me. I really liked it. I will tell you though that there were instances though where I would make decisions on behalf of the people that I represented, and other folks that I knew, and I don't know how to say this delicately, that had different interests. I'll say developers. We'll just leave it at that. I had a few folks kind of pull me aside and say, "Wait a minute, I thought you were, our person on our side." And I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, this is local politics. There's no parties involved. There's no, all of this." So that was kind of interesting as well. And the other thing that I would like to say too about the local level is that a lot of folks, and this is true at the state level as well, you're representing, you're making these decisions, and you're sometimes not being paid. It is your time. You have a different full-time job. Even if you are being compensated, I can tell you the compensation that I got was minimal for the one board that I was on that actually did get paid. And it also opens up more opportunities for you to serve elsewhere, which is great. But the thing that motivates you whenever you do all of this is that dedication to serve. It really is that helping, and I can tell you, my children were able to see, whenever I would go and be at meetings until, a meeting that was supposed to end at 7 and it's not done until 10, sometimes 11. Or, it was a morning meeting and, dad had to take him to school or grandma had to pick him up or something like that. They really were able to see that, and friends of ours as well, they were able to see where that dedication is. And I will say also too, at the, kind of level, when you look at your entire family and even your friend group, you probably you'd be surprised how many people are actually in public service or either public service adjacent, where they work with the government at any level or sometimes all levels in some way or another. So when Samantha was mentioning that, how many people actually work in public government at all levels, it's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. And so, I guess that's what's a little difficult right now, because public service is kind of getting a bad rap. It's getting a bit of a tussle right now, but it really is fulfilling for those that want to get involved. So one of the things that I tell my students all the time, and that I even did as part of my dissertation, was that most people, whenever they get involved at any level, whatever level it is, but a lot of times at the local and state level, is that they find something that they are passionate about, that they would like to fix, that they would like to champion. And that's what drives them, and that's what moves it forward. And one of the, my president that I worked for at GE Capital, he called it the fire in the belly. He said, he could see somebody when they had the fire in the belly. And I always was very literal and thought, that sounds weird, but okay. But it really is. You can see that internal drive. You can see that authenticity of that leader, that person who very much cares about what that issue is. And then they carry that forward, for other things that they do. So last thing I'm going to say about the local level, it really is where you can see that immediate change occur. It may not happen, because again, everything moves very slowly, budget cycles and construction and all that kind of stuff, but you can really see it happen, and you can very much see changes that occur. And again, I'm always open to new adventures and new ways to serve. And if you had asked me when I was in my master's program in international relations and comparative politics and said, "Are you ever going to do anything at the local level and serve?" I would have said, "No way." And it was incredibly, incredibly fulfilling. It was absolutely wonderful. And I definitely, I've just recently moved to East Tennessee. I can't say really East recently, because it's been almost a year now. But I'm just starting to kind of, dip my toe into the local politics around where we've moved, and just to kind of let you guys know, sometimes it doesn't always have to be a government, type of position that you're getting involved in. It can be nonprofit, and that's where I'm kind of entering that foray right now, is into the nonprofit realm where I am, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes too quickly, because they'll be like, "You're not from around here, honey." So I'm gonna join the nonprofits first, and then spend my time where I see fit. So. All right, so I think we have Karla next, I believe is the next slide. And there is no way I can introduce you because you're so awesome. I'm going to let you just talk about all the
Oh,
wonderful.
well, thank you so much. Thanks, Heather and Samantha. Samantha for framing the purpose of our week, and Heather for your powerful reflections on service at the local level. And let me just say that from where I sit, the local level is what I get the most questions about personally, all the time. So it's the grocery store or walking the dog. It's like, how come the street light isn't working? Why we need a speed bump here, right? So definitely a lot of activity at the local level. But I'm here to offer a window into what it's like to serve at the state level, and to share a bit about my own story. But first, I just want to take a breath and say this to all of you. Public service isn't a job, it's really a calling, and sometimes a confrontation with yourself, with the systems we inherit, and with the stories that people bring to your doorstep. So before I dive into my personal story, I want to acknowledge the importance of Public Service Week. This is, as Samantha said, really our time to reflect on the contributions we make at every level of government, local, state, and federal. Public service touches every aspect of society, from the roads we drive on to the policies that shape our communities. It's not just about making decisions, it's about shaping lives, building trust, and being there for people when they need it most. As you listen, as today, I hope as you listen to our stories, I want you to think about all of the diversity of experiences that Heather and Samantha and I bring to public service. Each of us has had a unique journey that has shaped how we approach our leadership and service. And really, we all bring something different to the table. And that diversity of thought is one of the most powerful things that we have in public service. Now, a bit about me. So when I think back on my path to public service, I see it as a series of moments when I realized that what I do is more than just a job. It's been really about making a difference. And it's about being true to who I am, both personally and professionally. I've had the privilege of being elected to serve in the Georgia State House for 13 terms. I'm in my 25th year right now. I serve on 7 committees. I'm the chair of the third largest House delegation county in the state. And each term, thank you, Gurmit. Each term has taught me something new about leadership, service, and the importance of showing up with integrity. But beyond the policy work and the legislative debates, what's been most powerful is how I've had to grow as a person, as a leader, and who is someone who is committed to representing people, not just passing bills. I've always, excuse me, I've always been someone who believes in the importance of living authentically. To me, authenticity is the key to leadership. It allows us to build trust with people we serve and connect with our colleagues in meaningful ways. It's not always easy, and it certainly wasn't always something I felt comfortable embracing. I'll be honest, there was a time when I wasn't sure if I could fully bring my true self into my work. We all know how challenging it can be to navigate professional environments while feeling the weight of expectations, assumptions, and sometimes even bias. But over time, I came to realize that my ability to show up as myself, my whole self, was a strength and not a hindrance. There's a conversation that I had that stands out in my mind. I met a 17-year-old girl after I was shortly elected who was struggling with her sense of belonging. She was looking at the world of public service and really wondering if someone like her could ever find a place in it. And she asked me, how did you make it? How did you find your place? And how can I do the same? I remember telling her that the beauty of public service isn't that it's about helping, that it's about helping people find their voice and their power. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels seen and heard, where people from all walks of life can contribute to the greater good. That conversation changed me. It reminded me why I do this work, because it's not just about policy or legislation. It's really about creating a path for others to follow, to show them that they too could belong here. It's about breaking down the barriers that keep people from feeling empowered. And it's about making public service more inclusive, more accessible, more representative of the communities we serve. We talk a lot about representation, but what does that really mean? For me, it's not just about numbers or demographics. It's about ensuring that every person who walks into the room or a role feels like they belong there. And that happens. And when that happens, we all benefit. I've often thought about how different the world of public service would be if more people were empowered to bring their full selves into the work. If we could all show up as our authentic selves without fear of judgment or rejection, imagine the collective strength we would have. The diversity of thought, experience, and perspective is not just important, it's really essential. It makes us stronger, more resilient, and more creative in finding solutions to the challenges that we face. So when I think about my journey, I'm proud of the progress that I've made, not just in my career, but in learning fully to embrace who I am. And if my story can inspire someone else, especially someone younger, just beginning to think about a future in public service, then I know that I'm doing something right. My students often ask me, what makes someone a good public service? I tell them, self-awareness, humility, and a commitment to learning. Public service is really not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to listen, especially to those who see the world differently. We don't always agree, but I don't teach to be agreed with. I teach to expand thinking and to sharpen your ability to lead with clarity, compassion, and truth. And the truth is, our democracy needs people who are willing to stay in conversation with each other, especially when it's hard. We need leaders who hold tension, not avoid it, who can bridge divides, not deepen them, who knows that you can love your country and still want to do better. Public service is about people. It's about serving others, and yes, but it's also about creating spaces where everyone has a chance to contribute, where everyone feels valued, where diversity is seen as a strength. That's why this week is so important. It's an opportunity for us to reflect on our work, to celebrate the impact we've made, and to consider how we continue to grow and evolve as public servants. It's also a chance to encourage others, those who may feel uncertain or left out, to join us in this vital work. So today, I invite you to reflect. What story brought you here? What part of your life, your identity, your values, your experiences could help someone else feel seen or heard or understood? And how will you use your voice in the service of something greater than yourself? That's the heart of public service, not perfection, but purpose. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. And as I reflect on my journey and the impact of public service, I'm reminded of a quote that has always resonated with me, and that is, policy is personal when it affects the people you serve. This encapsulates everything I've learned along the way, that public service is deeply personal. It's about the lives we touch, the people we help, and the responsibility we carry. With that in mind, I'm excited to turn things over to Samantha, who will share her perspective on public service at the federal level and how these policies play out on a much larger scale, affecting communities across our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Karla. That was inspiring. I feel like I want to go back into public service again. So,
I did my job there.
yeah, I do. I, well, let me start off by telling you a little bit of my background. When I was finishing my bachelor's degree, at the University of Arizona, I started as an intern, with an agency under the Department of Justice. And I was planning on going to law school. I was going to be an attorney. And probably about a month after I graduated from undergraduate, I sat at the table looking at my mom and dad, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't want to be an attorney. What was I thinking? You know, I was admitted, it was all planned, it was all ready to go, and was, just decided I didn't want to do it. But of course, I had school loans, and so I started applying for jobs, and I reached out to where I had interned, and I was like, I really need a job. And I really enjoyed what I was doing because I felt like I was making a difference. Even as an intern, even as an unpaid intern, I was helping people with applications. I was helping, helping the process of people looking for benefits. I worked with immigration at the time. And so I got picked up in they called it a term position, and I was doing naturalization interviews. And it was probably one of the most rewarding parts of my early career was, seeing these people, interviewing them and going through the process, and then standing in the room while they were, being naturalized and becoming American citizens. I had been in the room. My mother was an immigrant, and I remember when my mom was naturalized. And so for me to go on and do that was, I can't even explain, like, to stand there and be like, wow, I mean, like, I felt like I was really a part of something, and I was a part of something. I guess I shouldn't say it like that. To be a part of that was really a wonderful experience. And then I decided, well, I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. And started looking for a master's degree, and lo and behold, they had an MPA. And I had no idea that that even existed. And so I started back to graduate school, and I continued working with the same agency all the way through graduate school. And so I was, I was learning in classes and I was actually doing. So I was seeing the practical application of what I was learning in a classroom, which is really important to me as an instructor now, to pass that on to students and help them see the connections. And when I graduated, I moved on into a different career field inside the same agency, and I just kind of like worked my way up. I had an opportunity. I moved into a law enforcement field, a federal law enforcement field, and being a female in a federal law enforcement field, was not easy. It was very difficult. And, working my way up through that process, I went out to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, where except for the FBI, pretty much all the federal agencies are trained there. I spent 5 years training brand new employees. And I'll tell you why that's in such an important part of who I was as a federal employee, because I got to help these new employees be human from the get-go. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about federal law enforcement because we see a lot of negative on the news, not just federal law enforcement, federal agencies in general, because we rarely ever see the kudos, the hey, they did a great job. It's always the, oh, what did they mess up now? Or, and so many of these young people who were coming into the agency, to be able to sit with them from the very beginning and be like, listen, what we do is very important because we touch lives. We make huge differences in people's lives. When you have an arrest authority, particularly on a federal level and on any level, the direct impact you have on people's lives, just getting up and going to work today, is really, really intense. And so, it was so important for me to be like, the people that we deal with, you don't think of them as a criminal first. They're a human being. They have families. No matter what it is that they've done, they have families. They have brothers and sisters and moms and dads and kids, just like I do. They get up and they put their pants on one leg at a time. And so no matter what you do, you treat them like human beings. No matter what they've done, you treat them as human beings. And that was like such an important thing for me as I moved up through my career. And I took every opportunity I had to use teaching opportunities with the people that I worked with my subordinates as I moved up. And I did move up. I moved back out into the field. I was a field supervisor. I moved up as an assistant field office director. I did congressional affairs. I did media affairs. I was the chief of staff for a really long time. And all of those positions, I tell my students that a public administrator, you might have a background in accounting or you might have a background in criminal justice, but that's just where that's just the shoes you fill. But the hats that you wear every day in the field of public administration, you wear all of them. You're a mediator, you're a cheerleader, you're a gladiator. You don't just do one thing. You do it all. And that's one of the things about being in public service is you have to do you do far more than you would ever possibly imagine. It's not just that I'm not just the HR person. There's everything. You do literally everything. And it may not be all at one time, but throughout your career, you are going to wear every single possible hat. And a lot of times it's going to be several hats at one time. So the thing that we have to remember is public service can be thankless. Like I said, particularly on the federal level. Again, I worked in an agency that was really, really disliked. And, I had employees who were like, why do I do this? Why do I get up every day? And I said, and I'd have conversations and I'm like, because this is us making a difference. This is us doing something right. This is our public service. My dad I wanted to go into the military for other reasons. I didn't get an opportunity to go into the military, and so public service was my path. It was my way to serve, and I worked alongside people who did military service and then came on and did federal service. My dad was the same way. My dad was active duty military, left the military, went into civil service, and he served for 51 years. My mother was a naturalized citizen. She served in federal service for 33 years. My husband served federal service for 19 years. Between the four of us, we have more than a century of federal service. And that's my legacy. I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud to say that I have that behind me. And I would encourage anybody to go into federal service. But right now is really hard to do that. I mean, it's like I said, it's a thankless job, and to know that sometimes things are, sometimes who's sitting in the White House is not exactly who you like. One of the other things that I always tell my employees is, listen, I worked through a lot of administrations, some that I liked, some that I didn't like, some that I agreed with, some that I didn't agree with, but I wasn't serving. I shouldn't say I wasn't serving the administration, because as a federal employee, you are. But my service was to the people, not to who was sitting in the White House. And, I would, this kind of sounds funny, but I'd be like, listen, this person won't be there forever. This is one of those things that, think about why you're here. Are you here because you feel like you're doing something, because you want, you're serving, you want to do something positive, you want to make a difference? Or, sometimes we have to make our way through it, even when what's coming from above us is a challenge. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people to understand, is particularly on the federal level. And it matters on all levels, but really on the federal level, because things tend to go from one extreme to another. Is I'm here to serve the people, and I'm going to keep doing that. And sometimes I just kind of have to wait my way through it, and know that I'm there for the right reasons. Like I said, nowadays, telling people to go, seek out a federal career, I'd still tell people to do it. And I would tell them, you know what, right now, just hang in there. Just hang in there. I read an article today, and they're talking about, they have all these like early retirement opportunities. And there, some agencies did have quite a few people who, put in their stuff to take their early retirement. But there was, they talked to some people who said they didn't. And that was the thing that they specifically said. They were like, I'm here to hold the line. I'm here because I'm here to serve. I'm here for something bigger than what's happening right now. And so I'm not going to take advantage of that. I'm going to stay. I'm going to stick it out no matter what. I'm going to keep moving forward. And I think that's probably the biggest thing to tell anybody, is even right now, keep moving forward. There's a lot more in the future, and what's happening right now won't be like this forever. You just have to kind of make your way through make your way through what's happening right now, and stick with why you're there. Remember why you're there. Remember the why. So that's my 2 cents. But I do, for everybody who is a civil servant, past, present, future, thank you for what you do. It is a thankless job sometimes, but it is probably the most rewarding thing that we can do. Karla, back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Samantha. Our perspectives from the local level to the state level to the federal level, we're going to close with a call to service. And we want to encourage each of you to, for some reason, I can't turn my video back on, Saeed, to be the change that you want to see in the world, right? That Public service needs you more now than ever. It is it is a field in which each of us have, as you've heard, we love what we do and we love giving back, and we want to say thank you for what you do and for you um, giving back to us as well. Ladies, you,
I'll chime in. So the one block that's up here that says bring your whole self to work, public service calls for empathy, courage, innovation, and care. That would be my that would be my theme song. I think that I would say for public services, you have to be empathetic, because the people that you're dealing with every day, you know, whether it's in a law enforcement position or a public, you know, social type of service agency, what you do impacts their lives directly, very, very directly. It's a difference for some people. It's a difference between being able to go home at the end of the day, being able to have a roof over their head. It is so important, but also that courage and knowing that there are going to be people who have nothing good to say about you, about your agency, who you work for, what you do. That's not the point. You have to be strong. You have to remember the why. You've got to know why you're there, and be there 100%. Stick with it.
And I'd like to add, kind of the first box here, that public service needs your voice, ideas, and energy. Um, I mean, Karla, you did a beautiful job of explaining the need for diversity of voices, authentic voices. What's happening right now is temporary, like Samantha was mentioning. We need people who are drawn to this calling to be a part of the solution, to build back some of the departments and policies that have been kind of cast aside in literally just recent weeks, not just months. It's only been weeks. So we need folks to be a part of protecting the democracy, but also bringing these vital services at all levels and policies to our fellow citizens and human beings, quite frankly. We have an amazing system in the United States. I'm in awe every day that local, state, and federal work as seamlessly together as they do. People might get frustrated with it whenever they have to interact at the different levels. But we really do have a gift here in the United States, and it can always get better. So we need folks to be a part of it, and just start at any level wherever you feel called to do so. So I think there's a question here. Christina asked, do you think that some of those who have been cast aside come back eventually? I do. I mean, I don't know what my other presenters think, but I think some of the departments that have been cast aside will eventually come back, because they've been essential, particularly at the federal level, because that's where we're seeing, so many changes. They've been essential not only to us in the United States, but also to the rest of the world, quite frankly. And that's how we keep. Now you can see my international relations self is coming out. My diplomacy soul is coming out. That's how we not only keep those connections, but we also provide security, not only for ourselves but for our allies as well. So, Karla and Samantha, what do you think about that one?
well, I think that yes, the people that have been let go, some of them will come back, but others will perhaps go to other levels of government. So states are offering up, they want seasoned, talented people, right?
Mhm.
So their job boards are being packed right now, asking for people that people that came from the federal government perhaps will go to a state or a local government. I'm hopeful. What
I
about
am,
you, Samantha?
I am too, Carla. I think that a lot of people, and some, as things evolve with these agencies and different things happen, I think some of them will end up coming back to same agencies. Um, I think some of them will go on to other agencies, but I do know, like I think the states are going to get an incredible group of people who have incredible experience. And unfortunately, the knowledge that goes out the door with people um, is very, very frustrating. But we've got to find ways to keep, to move forward. We've got to think of, how do we rearrange things? That this is not the first time that this has happened in the federal government. This actually happened under
Right.
the I think it was under the Clinton, I can't remember, but it was back in, the early 2000s. We had a really significant downsize of government, but it wasn't so vocal at the time. It was a very different experience. They did downsize, um, and I think that I think people do come back to because it's again we're coming to serve, and so for those who truly are in that field, in the field to serve, whether it's at the federal level or other agencies, I think we will see that.
And I will say, just as an example, it was, it's kind of a personal one, but I'm still astounded by it every day. My daughter is in her early 20s, graduated with her bachelor's in, I guess it was environmental science. And her goal, even in all of this turmoil, was to work for a state environmental agency, and she was able to, get a job doing that. And she is a proud public worker, and she is so fulfilled by that, every day. And so, I see that in our students as well, and the work that they do, again, at the state and local level, and they are really driven by the things that they're passionate about, and being able to give back and make a difference. And I the moment that I think, oh my gosh, nobody's ever going to want to work for the government, it's becoming, still, it's like, no, that's where I can make a difference, and I really do like that, with and this, I'm going to sound like I'm 100 years old right now. I like that with the younger generation, that they really do have a calling, that they want to serve and make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree. I agree. And even though if you're watching TV or you're reading your social media feeds, that things are tumultuous right now, uh, you should have faith that our government is here and it's not going anywhere. We may be rearranging the deck chairs right now, but we still have a country to run. We have people to serve, and we have, promises, a promising future. And as Gurmit said, vote,
Hmm.
vote. So I want to thank all of you for coming this evening. Thank you, Samantha and Heather, for participating this evening in this really cool celebration of public service. And if there are not any questions or comments, Saeed, thank you for arranging everything. We will.
Yes, I just wanted to jump in and say, as a quick wrap up, how absolutely motivating this hour has been. I find that I'm not even going to say I wish more people were like you, but I do. But I also am reminded from this presentation tonight that there are people like you out there. And we that are listening to this evening, if we're not currently in public service or in government work, all we do is hear, like you all said, all the bad news and the turbulence that's going on, and the brutality that's been happening. And so a bit of positive message on the whys of public service is just so, you know, energizing. And so breath of fresh air is exactly right. And so my gratitude is boundless for this marvelous, you don't even realize maybe how wonderful an hour like this is. It's just so, it's like a nice tonic to even hear that there are public servants that understand the place in history where we are, and that it won't be this way forever. We tend to lose sight of that. The news cycles come and go so fast, and we don't, we can't catch a breath. And we definitely haven't been hearing much good news in the news because we don't, you know, that's not what they show us. So you all are just marvelous. Thank you, Infinity, and everybody continue the fight. Everybody vote, and everybody. We're going to put this presentation on our YouTube page, and then I'm going to talk it up after this and tell my students check this presentation out, because it'll give you I don't want to say a warm fuzzy, but it'll give you some hope, and that's a big word, but give you some hope. Okay, thank you all again so much, and everybody have a great night, and maybe we'll see you next year for another presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you all.